In the beginning, there was only silence. It was not the silence of an empty room or a quiet meadow. It was deeper, endless, a silence that stretched across eternity, where no sound had yet been born and no light had yet awakened. It was the silence of chaos, the vast and formless void. Chaos was not cruel, nor was it kind. It simply existed, without edges, without direction, without time. Within this vast stillness, one could almost feel a soft drifting, as though the void itself were breathing in long, slow rhythms. It was an endless night, yet not frightening. It was like the calm before a dream begins. From this quiet void, the first presence stirred. She was Gaia, the earth. Gentle and broad, she unfolded like a soft green blanket across the emptiness. Her skin was fertile soil, her breath was the wind, and her embrace was the ground where all things might one day rest. She was the mother, the foundation, and her heart beat with a patient rhythm that echoed through the stillness. Gaia looked around her, yet there was nothing but her own form spreading in all directions. She longed for companionship. She longed for balance. And from within chaos, in answer to her yearning, arose Uranus, the sky. He stretched high above her, a vast dome of shimmering blue, speckled with the faintest light that glimmered like tiny seeds of stars yet to bloom. When Uranus looked down, he saw Gaia lying below him, vast and welcoming. He felt drawn to her, and his voice, gentle and deep, rolled like a soft wind. "Earth below," he whispered. "I see you. I feel you. Together, we can bring life into this stillness." Gaia's smile spread across her lands. Her rivers shimmered, though no water yet flowed. Her forest hummed softly, though no trees had yet risen. She felt warmth within her, a quiet joy. "Yes," she answered. "Together, let us fill this silence." And so Gaia and Uranus joined, and from their union came the first children. The Titans were born, mighty and radiant. They were vast beings, shaped of earth and sky, of mountain and storm. Each Titan was strong, yet each carried within them the gentleness of their mother and the far-reaching presence of their father. They opened their eyes to the endless world, and their laughter became the first sound to echo through the void. Among them were Oceanus, whose eyes reflected the rolling seas that would one day cover Gaia's surface. There was Hyperion, radiant like the sun's promise. There was Themis, calm and balanced, who carried fairness in her heart. And there was Mnemosyne, whose thoughts flowed like memory itself, soft and endless. More Titans followed, each carrying a spark of the world to be. They stretched, they moved, and they marveled at the vastness that was now their home. But Gaia's heart was vast, and still she longed for more life. From her union with Uranus came more children, beings who were less gentle than the Titans. They were the Cyclopes, one-eyed and strong, their gaze burning like fire. Then came the Centimanes, the hundred-handed ones, whose strength was immeasurable. Gaia loved all her children, whether beautiful or strange, for they were born from her heart. But Uranus did not share this love equally. When Uranus looked upon the Cyclopes and the hundred-handed ones, he felt unease. They were powerful, unpredictable, and wild. He feared them. And in his fear, he pushed them deep into the hidden places of Gaia, pressing them down into her belly, locking them away where their strength could not rise. Gaia felt this weight. She groaned softly, her wide body trembling under the strain. The Titans walked upon her, feeling her unease. They looked at her with worry, their steps echoing gently like thunder. "Mother," whispered Themis, her voice calm but troubled, "why does the earth groan so heavily beneath us?" Gaia sighed, her breath warm across the land. "Your father," she said softly, "has hidden away your brothers. He has pressed them deep into me, and I feel their cries in my bones." The Titans fell silent, their gazes lifted upward, to the wide dome of Uranus above. He stretched across the heavens, his presence vast, his silence heavy. Oceanus, whose voice was calm like rolling tides, spoke. "Perhaps he fears them, Mother. Perhaps he does not yet see their worth." Gaia closed her eyes. She loved Uranus, yet the ache within her was deep. "Fear cannot guide the world," she murmured. "For fear comes only pain." The Titans heard her words, but they were young still, and none dared to act. They walked quietly upon Gaia's body, feeling her strain, and wondered what balance might one day come. Yet even in this tension, the world continued to grow. Night and day began to stretch across Uranus's wide expanse, flowing gently one into the other. The stars, like tiny sparks, blinked awake in the heavens. Rivers trickled across Gaia's surface, shimmering with soft reflection. Life, fragile and tender, whispered into being. Gaia watched and hoped. She longed for harmony between earth and sky, between mother and father, between all her children. She whispered to herself as she gazed at the horizon, where the sky kissed the earth in a soft line of promise. May balance find us, she murmured. May love guide us. May the children of earth and sky walk gently into their destinies. And though the silence was no longer complete, a gentle stillness remained, as though the world itself were waiting. The Titans, young and curious, turned their eyes upward, wondering what would come next. The stars flickered faintly, like secrets waiting to be spoken. Night spread across the heavens, gentle and slow. The stars glimmered like tiny lanterns, each carrying a quiet mystery. Upon Gaia's broad body, the Titans rested. They gazed upward, their eyes filled with wonder, yet their hearts carried the weight of their mother's unease. Gaia lay still, though her thoughts moved like rivers beneath her surface. She felt the cries of the children buried deep inside her. The Cyclopes pounded softly, their fists like muffled drums. The hundred-handed ones shifted, their many arms restless. Their voices, though faint, echoed in her depths like hidden thunder. She whispered to herself, her tone soft and sorrowful. My children suffer in darkness. Their father locks them away. Yet they were born of love, as surely as the Titans were. The Titans stirred. Themis leaned, close to her mother's voice. Shall we not speak with father? Perhaps he will listen. Gaia sighed, the sound like the rustle of leaves across a meadow. I have spoken. Yet his heart is closed. Fear blinds him. Hyperion, whose light shone faintly even in the night, raised his gaze toward Uranus. He is vast, mother. He covers us all. How can we stand against the sky itself? Gaia did not answer at once. She closed her eyes, her thoughts deep, her heart heavy. The earth beneath the Titans shifted as though she breathed in. Slowly, her voice rose again, low and steady. There must be balance. Uranus cannot press his fear upon the world forever. One of you, my children, must rise. One of you must bring change. The Titans fell silent. The wind from Uranus stirred above them, soft but endless. Their mother's words sank into their hearts like seeds falling into fertile soil. At last, Oceanus, steady as water, spoke. Mother, change is heavy. It carries a burden. Which of us can bear it? Gaia's gaze swept over her children. Her eyes lingered upon the youngest among them. Cronus stood slightly apart, his expression thoughtful, his posture calm. He was sharp of mind and watchful. Where his brothers sought strength and his sisters sought harmony, Cronus held both patience and cunning. Cronus, Gaia whispered, her voice low like the hum of the deep earth. You are the one. Cronus felt her words settle into him like a cloak. He did not answer at once. His eyes flickered toward the wide sky above. Uranus stretched endlessly, glittering with cold stars. Cronus's thoughts moved slowly, like waves gathering. If I rise against him, Cronus murmured, the sky will darken. The air will tremble. Is this the path you wish, mother? Gaia reached to him with her presence. She brushed against his heart like the softness of soil around a seed. It is not hatred I seek, she said gently. It is balanced. Your father holds too tightly. He forgets that children must breathe free. If you act, do so with care. Act not from anger, but from the love of what must grow. Cronus bowed his head. His heart was steady, though his mind raced with images of what lay hidden within Gaia. The muffled cries of his imprisoned brothers echoed faintly within his ears. That night, as the stars shone quietly, Gaia moved with purpose. From her own body, she shaped a tool. A sickle of shining stone, sharp yet graceful, curved like the crescent moon. She lifted it, and her voice, though soft, carried to Cronus. Take this, my son. When the time comes, you will know how to use it. Cronus reached out. His fingers brushed against the sickle's smooth surface. It was cool to the touch, yet it hummed with quiet power. He held it close, and a calm resolve settled over him. The other titans watched in silence. Some felt uneasy. Others felt curiosity. None spoke against their mother. For deep within, each one sensed that change was drawing near, like the slow rising of dawn. Above them, Uranus stretched wide and unaware. The stars glittered, his endless gaze fixed upon the vastness of his own sky. Cronus closed his eyes. He listened to the soft breathing of Gaia. He felt the weight of the sickle in his hands, and in the quiet spaces of his heart, he wondered what path awaited them all. The night deepened. The titans lay upon the earth, though their thoughts were restless. Gaia whispered to herself, words no one else could hear. Balance will come. In time, the children of earth and sky will shape the world. But the path will not be gentle. Her voice faded into the rustle of grasses. Her breath rolled like a quiet wind, and the stars above flickered softly, as though they too were listening. Cronus opened his eyes once more. He gazed upward at Uranus, endless and shining, and a quiet determination grew within him. The sickle gleamed faintly in his hand, and the world waited. The days passed gently. Sunlight drifted across the lands of Gaia, and night returned with its quiet veil of stars. Yet beneath the calm, a slow tension grew. The titans sensed it, like a whisper moving through the air. Their mother's words lingered in their hearts, and Cronus carried the weight of the shining sickle. He did not rush. He walked across the wide earth, feeling the soil beneath his feet, the soft breath of the winds, the glow of his siblings' presence around him. Yet always his eyes turned upward, to Uranus, vast and glittering, stretched endlessly above. At times, Cronus wondered if he truly could act. Uranus was not only his father. He was the sky itself, bound to Gaia in an embrace that wrapped the whole world. To strike against him seemed like striking against the stars. And yet, the cries of his hidden brothers whispered in his thoughts, faint but unyielding. One evening, as the horizon glowed with soft colors of dusk, Rhea, his sister, came to him. Her presence was gentle, her voice like the murmur of streams. "Brother," she said, her eyes searching for him, "I see the weight upon your heart. Will you share it with me?" Cronus hesitated. His hand brushed against the sickle at his side, hidden within folds of shadow. He looked toward the heavens before he spoke. "Mother has given me a task," he whispered. "A task that will change everything. She says balance must come. She says father holds too tightly." Rhea lowered her gaze. She touched the soil with her fingers, as though listening to Gaia's quiet heartbeat. "Do you believe her?" Cronus's eyes flickered. "I hear the cries within her. I feel them as though they echo in my bones. Father hides what should not be hidden. Yet still, he is the sky. To rise against him, it feels like tearing the world apart." Rhea lifted her hand and touched his shoulders softly. "Sometimes to plant a seed, the earth must be broken. Perhaps this is what mother means." Cronus looked at her, his heart stirred by her calm faith. Yet doubt remained. He walked away from her that evening, the sickle still at his side, gleaming faintly like the curve of a new moon. That night, Gaia's voice came to him in a dream. He lay upon her broad surface, and her whisper rose around him, soft and steady. "Cronus," she murmured, "the time is near. You must free your brothers. You must open the path for all who come after." Cronus stirred in his sleep. "Mother, will father not hate me? Will the stars not fall if I strike?" Gaia's voice brushed against him like a lullaby. "The stars will endure. The sky will endure. Change is not the end, but a new beginning." He woke up with her words still echoing in his heart. The sickle lay beside him, its edge catching the faint light of dawn. Days stretched into nights, and nights into days. The titans watched quietly, sensing the nearness of something vast. Oceanus walked the rivers that now flowed upon Gaia's skin, his face heavy with thought. Hyperion lifted his gaze to the sun, his light steady but troubled. Themis sat in silence, weighing balance within her heart. Then, one night, Uranus descended. He stretched low across Gaia, his presence pressing close, his vastness covering the earth in a heavy embrace. The stars blinked faintly, as though held still. Gaia shuddered beneath him, her breath tight, her groans muffled. Cronus rose in silence. He felt the weight of the moment pressing upon him like the sky itself. His siblings stirred, but none moved. Only Rhea stepped near, her eyes steady, her voice a whisper. "Brother," she said, "the time has come. Mother's burden grows. If you do not act, none of us will be free." Cronus's hand tightened upon the sickle. His breath slowed, steady as the rhythm of the earth. He looked upward at Uranus, vast and glittering. The stars shone in their silence, like witnesses to what was about to unfold. He lifted the sickle. Its edge shimmered like moonlight, cold and sharp. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Gaia whispered, her voice rising from the depths of the earth. "Be strong, my son. Act with love, not hatred. Let the path of the world open." And Cronus, with a steady heart and firm hand, stepped into his fate. The world trembled softly, and change began. The night was deep. Stars shimmered softly across the vast dome of Uranus. His presence stretched heavy, pressing close upon Gaia. The weight of sky upon earth grew thicker, and Gaia groaned faintly beneath it, her voice trembling like wind through hidden caves. Cronus stood ready. The sickle gleamed faintly in his hand, curved and sharp like a piece of moonlight pulled from the heavens. His heart beat steady, though his breath moved slow and heavy. Around him, his brothers and sisters stood in silence. None spoke. None dared. Only Rhea lingered near, her gaze calm and unwavering. Uranus lowered himself, his vast body covering Gaia in his embrace. His voice rolled gently, though pride colored his tone. "All belongs to me," he murmured. "The children of Earth are mine to keep. None shall rise without my will." Gaia shuddered. Her voice rose, though soft and weary. "Sky, you hold too tightly. Love is not a prison. Even children of the earth must breathe free." But Uranus did not loosen. His presence pressed heavier, and the hidden children deep within Gaia groaned louder. Their cries rose like muffled thunder, echoing through the earth's bones. Cronus's hand tightened upon the sickle. The edge glistened with pale fire. He looked to Rhea once more. She nodded, her eyes shining with quiet trust. "Do not fear, brother," she whispered. "You act not for hatred, but for freedom." Cronus raised the sickle. His body moved like a shadow, swift and silent. The air trembled. Time itself seemed to pause, holding its breath. And with one firm motion, Cronus struck. The sickle carved through the sky's embrace. A cry burst from Uranus, a sound vast and deep, rolling like storms across eternity. His stars shuddered. His light faltered. The heavens shook. Yet the world did not end. Instead, a heavy weight lifted. The grip that bound Gaia loosened. The children hidden deep within her stirred, their chains broken, their cries turning to gasps of freedom. The Cyclopes emerged, their single eyes burning bright with fire. Their voices rang out, rough yet filled with relief. The 100-handed ones followed, their many arms stretching wide, shaking the earth with their strength. Gaia exhaled, her breath long and trembling. For the first time in ages, she felt her body lighten. The groans that once shook her bones faded into silence. Her eyes turned to Cronus, and her voice rose, tender and full. "My son," she whispered, "you have done what I could not. You have opened the path for all that is to come." Cronus stood tall, the sickle still in his hand. His face was steady, though shadows lingered in his eyes. He looked upward. Uranus was not gone. His body stretched still across the heavens, broken but vast, torn but unyielding. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Ungrateful child," he cried. "You raise your hand against your father. You strike against the sky itself. You may wound me, but I shall never vanish. My stars will watch forever. My curse will follow you." Cronus lowered his gaze, his jaw set. "I did not act from hatred," he said softly, though Uranus's vastness made his words small. "I acted for balance. You held too tightly." Uranus's cry rolled on, echoing across eternity. Yet slowly his light dimmed. His presence pulled back, retreating to the far reaches of the heavens. He stretched high farther and farther, until the stars grew distant. The sky, though wounded, became wide and open. The Titans watched in silence. Some trembled at the sight of their father's retreat. Others fell. Rhea stepped close to Cronus, her hand brushing his arm. Her touch was gentle, grounding. "You have changed the world," she murmured. And indeed, the world has changed. Night deepened, yet it was no longer heavy. The stars glimmered brighter, freer, like seeds scattering across the sky. The air upon Gaia's surface grew lighter, fresher. The rivers sang more clearly, their waters rushing without strain. The Cyclopes lifted their voices, thanking their mother, their cries strong and fiery. The hundred-handed ones stretched their limbs, their laughter rolling like thunder across the valleys. Gaia closed her eyes. Peace, fragile and new, settled within her. Yet deep in the heavens, Uranus's voice whispered still, faint but sharp. "This is not the end. My blood falls upon the earth. From it shall rise powers beyond your imagining, and they will shape what is yet to come." The Titans shivered. Even in retreat, Uranus's shadow lingered. His words clung to the air, a reminder that nothing born of change comes without its echoes. Cronus lowered the sickle at last. He placed it upon the earth, where it gleamed faintly in the starlight. His eyes, steady and thoughtful, turned not only to his siblings, but to the wide horizon. "We are free," he said quietly. "But freedom is only the beginning." The wind stirred softly, carrying his words across the land. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to the first great change of the cosmos. And beneath their glow, the future waited. The earth was quiet after the storm of change. The stars blinked softly in the heavens, spread wide and free. Gaia breathed more easily, her body light without the pressing weight of Uranus. Her children walked upon her surface with new steps, curious and unafraid. Cronus stood at the center of it all. The sickle that had struck the first blow rested beside him, its curved blade glimmering faintly in the night. His siblings gathered around, their eyes filled with wonder, uncertainty, and a cautious respect. Oceanus spoke first, his voice deep and flowing like rivers. "Brother, you have done what none of us dared. You have loosened Father's grip. The world is wide because of you." Themis, calm and balanced, raised her gaze toward the open sky. "Justice has been touched tonight. A burden has been lifted. Yet the weight of new choices falls upon us." Mnemosyne, the keeper of memory, murmured softly, "This night will never be forgotten. It will echo through time, shaping all that comes after." The Titans turned to Cronus. His face was steady, but shadows lingered in his eyes. He had freed his siblings, yes. He had loosened the hold of Uranus, yes. But in doing so, he had also carried out an act that could never be undone. Rhea, ever near him, touched his arm with gentle fingers. Her voice was calm, soothing. "Brother, you must not dwell in sorrow. Mother called you to bring balance. You did as she asked. Now we must walk forward." Cronus looked at her. Her presence eased him, yet within his chest a quiet burden remained. Still, he lifted his head and spoke, his tone slow and firm. "Then we will not let Father's rule return. I will lead as Mother has willed. Together, we will shape the world." The Titans bowed their heads, some with trust, others with hesitation. Yet none spoke against him. For in the stillness of that moment, Cronus's strength and resolve seemed like the natural thread of destiny. So began the age of Cronus. Under his rule, the Titans spread across Gaia, each shaping a part of the world. Oceanus circled the earth with his endless waters, his streams flowing gently into rivers and seas. Hyperion shone with golden light, guiding the rhythm of day. Themis brought balance, her judgment steady and kind. Mnemosyne held memory, weaving the past into the present like a soft tapestry. The world blossomed in their hands. The sky stretched wide, stars glimmering freely. The earth flourished, mountains rising, valleys deepening, rivers singing. Creatures began to stir, soft forms upon the land, faint wings across the air, whispers of life upon the waters. Gaia watched with quiet joy. Her heart was full as she saw her children shaping the world with care. Yet within her, a subtle unease remained. For she remembered Uranus's parting words, his warning that from his blood, new powers would rise. And indeed, where his blood had fallen upon the earth, strange beings began to emerge. From drops that soaked into soil, giants stirred, their forms tall and mighty. From foam that touched the sea, a faint glow shimmered, a promise of beauty yet to come. The Titans looked upon these signs with curiosity, some with wonder, others with worry. Cronus, however, kept his gaze steady. He ruled with calm authority, yet he guarded his throne with watchful eyes. Time flowed gently. Days passed into nights, and nights into days, like waves folding into one another. The world seemed steady under Cronus's hand. His siblings respected him, and Gaia's groans had eased. Yet in the quiet hours, Cronus sometimes wandered alone. He would stand upon high cliffs, gazing at the stars. He would touch the sickle, now resting at his side, and feel its cold weight. His thoughts lingered on his father's curse, whispered like distant thunder. One evening, Rhea found him there, the sea's breeze stirring her hair, the moonlight glowing upon her face. "You do not rest, brother," she said gently. Cronus looked at her, his eyes thoughtful. "Rest does not come easily. Father's voice lingers in me. He said his curse would follow. I wonder what shape it will take." Rhea stepped closer, her presence like a calming tide. "Do not let shadows rule you. The world grows under your hand. Mother smiles upon you. Is that not enough?" Cronus's gaze softened as he looked at her. Rhea's faith steadied him, as it always did. He placed his hand over hers and nodded. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps peace can endure." And so he held to that hope. He ruled with patience, his siblings by his side, his mother guiding softly from beneath. The age of Cronus became an age of calm, of steady growth, of golden harmony. Yet deep within the earth, Gaia felt a stirring, a quiet shift beneath her roots, faint but certain. She said nothing at first, not wishing to trouble her children. But in her heart, she knew the story was not yet complete. For balance, once broken, never rests for long. And as the stars twinkled brightly above, unseen destinies were already beginning to unfold. The world settled into a gentle rhythm beneath the rule of Cronus. Days unfolded with quiet brightness, and nights draped the land in soft velvet skies. The rivers sang, the forests whispered, and the mountains stood tall, their peaks crowned with mist. It was a time that later would be remembered as golden. The Titans moved across the earth in harmony. Oceanus circled the land with his waters, their flow constant and calm. Hyperion's light bathed the world each morning, his rays warm and steady. Themis's balance guided decisions, her fairness bringing peace to disputes before they grew heavy. Mnemosyne wove memory into all things, ensuring nothing would be lost to silence. Creatures of every kind stirred gently across Gaia's surface. Birds lifted wings toward the sky. Beasts roamed the valleys. Fish darted through the seas. None knew hunger. None knew fear. They lived as though time itself carried only ease. Mortals, too, were born in these days. Their lives were soft and simple. They walked the fields without toil, gathering what the earth gave freely. The air was mild, the soil fertile, the skies kind. They knew no sickness, no war, no struggle. Their voices carried songs of gratitude, drifting like soft music into the breeze. Gaia's heart swelled as she watched. Her children had shaped a world that was gentle, where harmony ruled and shadows lay quiet. She whispered often to herself, her tone calm and filled with wonder. "Peace blooms. The world breathes freely. This is what I dreamed." Cronus, seated upon his high place, looked out across the lands. His eyes softened as he saw the earth at ease. He ruled not with cruelty, but with a steady presence. His voice guided when needed, but often he let his siblings move as they willed, shaping their domains with freedom. Rhea was often near him, a presence quiet but sure. She walked among mortals, watching them with tenderness, guiding their steps with unseen care. When she returned to Cronus, she would speak of what she saw. "They live in joy, brother," she told him. "Their hearts are light. They loved the earth and sky as though they were their own kin. Cronus nodded, though shadows sometimes flickered behind his calm gaze. May it remain so. May Father's curse never find its way to them. Rhea touched his hand gently. Do not carry fear into a time of peace. Let the present be enough. And for a while it was. The seasons, though gentle, began to shift. Spring brought blossoms that painted the meadows. Summer poured warmth across the hills. Autumn spread golden leaves, their fall soft as whispers. Winter laid quiet snow, pure and still. Yet none of these changes brought hardship. They were but the earth's slow breath, steady and kind. The Titans marveled at these rhythms. They saw beauty in the cycles, wonder in the balance. Each moment felt eternal, as though nothing could disturb the harmony that had settled across the cosmos. But deep within Gaia, faint murmurs stirred. She felt the echo of Uranus's curse, like a seed lying buried, waiting for its moment to grow. She said nothing to her children, not wishing to darken their peace. Yet in her vast heart, she knew balance always shifts. No rain, however golden, can last forever. One evening, as the sun sank low and the sky blushed with soft colors, Cronus walked with Rhea along the shore. The waves lapped gently at their feet, cool and rhythmic. Rhea's eyes glowed with a fading light. Do you not see, brother? This age is full of grace. The world sings beneath us. Is this not what you longed for when you raised the sickle? Cronus gazed at the horizon, where the sea met the sky in a line of silver. His voice was quiet. Yes, yet I wonder if peace can endure. Father's words still echo in me. He said his curse would follow. I cannot forget. Rhea laid her hand upon his arm. The future is not yet written. Do not let fear write it for you. Cronus looked at her, and for a moment the shadows in his eyes eased. He allowed himself to breathe the salt air, to hear the waves lull, to feel the quiet warmth of his sister's presence. But later that night, when all lay still, he dreamed once more. In his dream, he saw the stars flicker and fade. He heard cries rising from the earth. He saw a shadowed hand reaching toward his throne. He woke with a start, the sickle at his side cold beneath his touch. His heart beat heavy, though the night was calm. The stars above twinkled as though nothing stirred. Yet within him, unease grew like roots spreading unseen through soil. And Gaia, far below, felt his unease as if it were her own. She whispered into the stillness, though none but the wind heard. The golden rain shines bright, yet even gold can tarnish. The balance will shift again. Her voice faded into the dark, carried softly by the night breeze. The world slept in peace, unaware of what waited beyond the horizon of time. The golden rain unfolded in calm rhythms. Days rose bright and steady, night settled soft and star-filled. The earth's creatures lived in harmony, and mortals thrived in simple joy. Laughter floated upon the wind, and the rivers carried songs of ease. Yet in the quiet heart of Cronus, unease lingered. Though the world around him glowed with balance, his dreams returned night after night. Shadows crept into his sleep. He saw hands reaching toward him, voices rising against him, children's cries mingling with the echo of his father's curse. When he woke, the visions clung like mist. He would rise before dawn, walking the hills in silence, his eyes heavy. Rhea, ever watchful, noticed. One morning, she followed him as he wandered along a ridge. The air was cool, and dew shimmered upon the grass. She drew near, her steps quiet, and touched his shoulder. "Brother," she said gently, "your eyes are weary. You carry a shadow that does not belong to you. Will you not share it with me?" Cronus looked at her, his face calm but troubled. "Rhea, I cannot escape Father's words. He said his curse would follow me, and each night I dream of it. Children rising, hands reaching, the throne unsteady. I fear it may come to pass." Rhea's brow softened. She clasped his hand with both of hers. Dreams are not destiny, and curses are but words, unless we give them power. But Cronus shook his head slowly. Father's words were not empty. He was the sky itself. His voice still lingers in the stars. I feel it pressing against me, quiet but unyielding. Rhea's heart ached at his fear. She leaned close, her voice soft as a stream. Then let us face the future together. Do not carry this burden alone. For a time, the present soothed him. Yet as seasons turned, the unease in Cronus's heart grew heavier. He looked upon immortals, their lives so free, and wondered if peace could remain untouched. He watched the stars above and thought he saw them flicker with hidden warnings. Gaia, deep within, felt his unrest. Her heart trembled, though she spoke nothing aloud. She had foreseen much, yet even she did not tell all she knew. In the stillness of her thoughts, she whispered to herself, "The balance shifts again. Even gold cannot remain forever. What has been sown will one day rise." The Titans sensed a subtle change in their brother. He ruled as before, steady and calm, but his eyes often wandered to the horizon. His silences grew longer. When he spoke, his words were thoughtful, but edged with caution. Oceanus, who flowed endlessly around the earth, noticed first. "Cronus looks far beyond the seas," he told Themis one evening. "His gaze is always reaching. He does not rest upon what is, but fears what may come." Themis, balanced and wise, nodded slowly. "Fear is a stone. If held too tightly, it sinks the heart. If set upon the ground, it steadies the path. Cronus has not yet chosen which it shall be. Still, life upon Gaia remained peaceful." Mortals sang. The seasons breathed gently. The Titans shaped the world with care. From the sea's foam, whispers of beauty lingered, unseen yet stirring. From the blood of Uranus, strange forms moved in shadowed places, their voices faint but growing. The world, though golden, was never still. One night, as the moon hung bright and full, Cronus sat alone upon a hillside. The sickle lay beside him, gleaming faintly. He held it close, his hand upon its edge, feeling the cold bite of stone. Rhea approached quietly. She seated herself beside him, the night air cool against her skin. "Still you keep the sickle near," she whispered. Cronus's eyes did not leave the stars. "It is both my burden and my shield. With it, I ended father's hold. Without it, I feel unguarded." Rhea laid her hand upon his, steady and warm. "But who do you guard against? The world rests in peace. Our siblings stand with you. Even the mortals sing your name with gratitude. Why do you watch the shadows when the light surrounds you?" Cronus's gaze darkened. "Because shadows always wait. Father's curse is not forgotten. He said his blood would give rise to powers beyond imagining. What if they come for me?" Rhea was silent for a moment. Then she leaned close, her voice calm, almost a lullaby. "If the future brings trials, we will meet them together. Let the present be enough, Cronus. Do not let fear steal what peace has been given." Her words drifted into the night. The stars twinkled softly, their light steady and kind. Cronus closed his eyes and allowed her voice to settle in him like a balm. For a moment, he breathed easily. Yet when he opened his eyes once more, the sickle still gleamed cold in the moonlight. His hand did not release it. And somewhere, deep within the earth, unseen seeds stirred. The world under Cronus's rule remained golden, yet subtle murmurs moved beneath the earth and across the seas. Life above continued in harmony, but Gaia felt faint tremors where Uranus's blood had touched her soil and his foam had kissed the oceans. The Cyclopes and the 100-handed ones walked freely now, marveling at their strength and the ease of the world around them. Yet even they paused, sensing something stirring beyond the light of day. Their one-eyed gazes flickered to shadows, and their many hands rested upon the ground, feeling the faint pulse beneath them. Deep beneath the quiet mountain, where roots of Gaia intertwined with stone and soil, a strange warmth spread. From drops of Uranus's blood, life began to grow, different, untamed, subtle yet persistent. The giants moved first. Their forms were enormous, taller than the mountains themselves, yet they were slow, careful, almost gentle. They stretched their limbs and turned their eyes to the sky, unknowing, yet aware of their place in this new world. The waves of the ocean shimmered in reply. From the foam that had fallen where Uranus's body touched the seas, beings of delicate beauty arose. Their forms were faintly luminous, shifting like the surface of calm water. Their voices, soft and musical, echoed across the waves in a language that mortals could not yet hear. Cronus felt the subtle change, though he could not yet name it. Standing on a high cliff, the wind brushing his hair, he sensed the stirrings beneath his feet and beyond the horizon. His hand brushed the sickle, the edge cold and firm. Rhea joined him, her presence a calm tide against his tension. "Do you feel it, brother?" she asked, her voice soft. The earth shifts beneath her steps. Cronus's gaze swept across the lands and seas. "I feel it," he murmured. "The world is stirring in ways I cannot yet see." Father's words, perhaps they are beginning to take shape. Rhea looked toward him, her eyes steady. "Then we will meet it as we have met all things together. Whatever rises, the world will endure." The days passed with gentle movement. The giants wandered through valleys and forests, their footsteps like soft rolling hills. They marveled at the rivers, the winds, the glow of sunlight on leaves. They were powerful, yes, yet untouched by greed or cruelty. Their hearts beat in tune with Gaia's own rhythm. From the seas, the foam-born beings emerged slowly, gliding across the surface in quiet wonder. They brought beauty, yet their presence was mysterious, almost like a whisper of something forgotten. Their forms shimmered, reflecting the sun and moon alike, as if carrying pieces of both light and shadow. The Titans watched these stirrings with curiosity. Oceanus's waters rippled in acknowledgement. Hyperion's rays warmed the giants gently. Themis observed, measuring the balance between earth, sky, and these new beings. Even Mnemosyne felt memory shift in subtle ways, threads of things to come weaving into the fabric of the present. Cronus, though uneasy, remained vigilant. The sickle rested beside him as he walked among the Titans and mortals alike. He listened to the wind, watched the movements of the giants, and glimpsed the soft glow of the foam-born beings. Something deep within him whispered caution, yet he did not act hastily. The mortals, unaware of the subtle stirrings, continued their lives in peace. Their songs drifted across fields, rivers, and seas, blending softly with the hum of giants' footsteps and the shimmer of the ocean beings' voices. Life and harmony coexisted with quiet hints of what might emerge. Gaia herself observed silently. She felt a gentle pulse in her heart, a warning, but also a calm assurance. These beings were born of the sky, yes, but also of her own body. They carried pieces of both parents, and in their balance lay potential, not only for change but for growth. As night fell, stars glimmered brighter, casting soft light over mountains and oceans. The giants rested beneath the cliffs. The foam-born beings glided quietly in the calm seas, and Cronus and Rhea looked out over the world they had nurtured. "Do you think they will bring harmony or imbalance?" Rhea asked softly, her gaze thoughtful. Cronus pressed the sickle lightly against the earth, feeling its pulse. "They may bring both," he said. "But the world is strong, and Gaia is wise. Whatever comes, we must meet it with patience and care." And beneath the quiet night, the world breathed softly. Shadows moved lightly, currents shifted gently, and the seeds of change whispered their first secrets into the soil and waves. The age of Cronus remained golden, yet new patterns were beginning to emerge, subtle as starlight and soft as a tide. The world remained bathed in the golden glow of Cronus's reign, yet whispers from the depths of earth and sea had begun to stir curiosity. The giants, born from Uranus's blood, wandered through valleys and forests, their enormous forms moving with careful, quiet steps. The foam-born beings glided upon rivers and seas, their luminous bodies rippling softly beneath the sunlight. At first, the Titans observed from afar, each taking note in their own way. Oceanus watched the waters carefully, noting how the foam-born beings responded to tides and currents. Hyperion followed their movements with gentle rays of sunlight, illuminating their forms without disturbing their quiet grace. Themis measured the balance of these new presences, observing interactions with mortals and the environment alike. Cronus walked among the giants one morning, the sickle resting at his side. He noted their wonder at mountains and rivers, the way they reached for the sun without fear, the way their voices resonated like soft rolling stones. "You are strong," Cronus said quietly, his voice low enough that only the giants could hear. "Yet strength without thought can tip the world. Remember the balance that has been given." The The giants turned their immense heads toward him. Their eyes, wide and curious, met him with no hostility. They tilted their bodies in acknowledgement, as though absorbing his words and understanding in their own way. Their movements were slow, deliberate, respectful of the earth beneath their feet. From the seas, a foam-born being approached. Its form shimmered with the colors of moonlight and sunlight mingling on water. Its voice, soft and musical, floated across the shore like a ripple. "You are Cronus," it said gently, its tone neither questioning nor commanding. "You shape the land. We follow, yet we are new here. Will you guide us?" Cronus nodded, studying the delicate glow. "I will guide you," he replied softly. "But know this, the world belongs to Gaia as much as it does to any of us. Move gently and listen to the balance of all life." The foam being lowered itself to the waves, shimmering more brightly with relief or perhaps understanding. Cronus allowed himself a quiet breath. The meeting had been gentle, respectful, and free of fear. Rhea observed from a nearby cliff. She stepped lightly to Cronus's side, her eyes bright. "They listen," she said, her voice soft, almost a lullaby. "The giants, the foam-born, they seek harmony as we do." Cronus's gaze swept across the horizon, where mountains met oceans and oceans met sky. "Harmony is fragile," he said slowly. "Even when it seems golden, it can shift without warning. We must remain attentive." The giants wandered further, exploring forests and valleys, occasionally touching trees and rocks, sensing the pulse of Gaia beneath them. The foam-born beings glided through rivers and estuaries, leaving trails of gentle light upon the water, small sparks that seemed to carry messages of beauty and balance. Mortals noticed these new beings, though they had no fear. The giant's presence was awe-inspiring yet calming. The foam-born beings' shimmering forms were like reflections of sunlight on water, soft and entrancing. Songs of gratitude and curiosity drifted from villages, carried on the wind to the Titans and beyond. Gaia, deep within her heart, felt a quiet satisfaction. "They are learning," she whispered. "They are not lost to chaos, not yet. This is their time of wonder, before paths diverge." But even as harmony reigned, Cronus could not ignore the faint pulse beneath the earth, the shimmer of the seas, or the soft echoes of Uranus's words. Somewhere in those quiet currents and hidden places, potential for disruption lingered, not yet fully formed, but present. As night fell, the stars blinked steadily, casting silver light across mountains, rivers, and seas. Cronus and Rhea stood together on a high ridge, looking down upon the land. "They are learning to live in our world," Rhea said softly. "Perhaps they will grow to bring only light." Cronus pressed the sickle gently against the ground. "Perhaps," he said. "Yet even light casts shadows. We must walk with care, for every seed has roots that may twist or reach beyond what we expect." The giants settled in forests and valleys, their forms blending with mountains and cliffs. The foam-born beings drifted in rivers and along the coastline, moving like liquid starlight across the earth. Harmony continued, but beneath it, a quiet awareness pulsed, a gentle reminder that the golden age, though bright, was still alive with possibility, change, and subtle tension. And as the night deepened, the stars reflected upon the calm seas, witnessing the first encounters of these new children of Gaia and Uranus. The age of Cronus remained golden, yet even gold could shimmer with hidden currents beneath its surface. The giants and foam-born beings had settled into the world, wandering forests, mountains, rivers, and seas. Their presence was subtle yet powerful, a quiet hum beneath the golden age. Mortals, walking the fertile lands, began to notice them. In a valley dotted with wildflowers, a group of mortals paused as a giant bent low, its vast hands gently brushing the grass. The mortals held their breath, fear mingling with awe. Yet the giant did not move abruptly. Its gaze, wide and curious, met theirs, and in that moment, a quiet understanding passed between them. The foam-born beings approached the rivers and streams, shimmering forms gliding across the water. Children playing along the riverbank pointed and laughed softly at the lights that danced upon the waves. Mothers watched, smiles forming on their faces, sensing no danger in these glowing visitors. Cronus observed quietly from a hill, Rhea beside him. "Do you see?" Rhea whispered. "The world accepts them without fear." They do not bring chaos, only wonder. Cronus pressed a hand to the hilt of the sickle, still by his side. Yes, he said. Yet even wonder can stir what lies beneath. Balance must always be maintained, even in gentle moments. He descended toward the valley, moving slowly so as not to alarm either giants or mortals. One giant lifted a massive hand in greeting, its deep voice rumbling softly like distant thunder. You are Cronus, it said, ruler of this world. We seek only to understand, to learn our place. Cronus nodded gently. Then watch, learn, and move carefully. The earth is shared by all, and all must respect her rhythm. A foam-born being shimmered toward him, its form reflecting moonlight in the early afternoon. We follow your guidance, it said, voice music like a gentle stream. Yet we are new. Teach us how to live without tipping what has been set. Rhea smiled at the meeting, stepping closer to Cronus. See, brother, even in the unknown, there is harmony. They wish only to belong, to learn the world you have shaped. Cronus looked at the mortals, then the giants and foam-born beings. Each life was a thread, delicate yet connected to every other. He felt a deep hum of responsibility, but also a quiet hope. Then let us guide them gently, he said softly. Let them find their place, and the world will remain balanced. The mortals stepped closer to the giants, curiosity overtaking fear. A child touched a giant's hand, feeling warmth beneath the rough exterior. Laughter rippled softly, echoing across the valley. The giants bent carefully to meet them, their movements slow and precise. On the rivers, the foam-born beings glided near, creating soft ripples that shimmered in sunlight. The mortals dipped their hands into the water, marveling at the light that seemed to dance just above their skin. No one recoiled. Instead, awe and gentle wonder filled the air. Gaia, deep within her body, felt the harmony bloom. Her voice, soft and nearly imperceptible, whispered through roots and waters. Look upon this, my children. Even what rises from the shadows can bring beauty if guided with care. Balance endures when hearts are gentle. Cronus and Rhea walked slowly among all beings, speaking in quiet tones. They encouraged the giants to be mindful of the forests, teaching them not to crush the delicate plants beneath their feet. They guided the foam-born beings to move gently along rivers, reminding them to leave trails that sang with harmony rather than disturbance. The mortals watched, learning patience, respect, and wonder. For the first time, all beings of the world, old and new, touched a shared understanding. Harmony, fragile yet radiant, flowed like a gentle current through every living thing. As night fell, the stars reflected softly in rivers and atop mountains. Cronus and Rhea stood on a hill, looking down upon the valley alive with gentle interaction. They learned quickly, Rhea said, voice whispering against the wind. Perhaps even faster than we expected. Cronus nodded slowly. Yes, but the world must always watch, even in moments of peace. Balance is not a thing to be taken for granted. The giants settled to rest in valleys. The foam-born beings glided gently along rivers, and mortals returned home with hearts full of. The golden age endured, serene and bright, yet beneath the calm, subtle currents of potential change continued to ripple. Even in wonder, even in harmony, the seeds of tomorrow's shift stirred quietly, like whispers beneath the earth and the soft pull of tides. Morning arrived softly across the valleys and rivers. Sunlight spilled over mountains, touching forests and meadows with gold. The giants stirred from their restful night, stretching their enormous limbs, and the foam-born beings glided slowly through the rivers, their forms catching sunlight like liquid silver. Mortals ventured out once more, eager to explore after their gentle encounters the day before. Children ran toward the giants, holding handfuls of wildflowers, offering them with shy smiles. The giants bent carefully, inhaling the fragrant blooms and bowing their massive heads in quiet acknowledgement. Their voices, deep and rumbling, vibrated the earth without fear or threat. Cronus walked among them, the sickle at his side, calm presence guiding the interactions. See how they learn, he murmured to Rhea, who followed close behind. Gentleness nurtures understanding. Rhea nodded, her eyes soft with warmth. Even the smallest gestures can shape harmony. A touch, a smile, a kind word, all have weight. The giants knelt to meet the children's eyes. Though their forms were immense, their movements were deliberate and careful. One giant gently lifted a child onto its broad hand, setting them back down with a careful, slow motion that caused no fear. The children laughed, their voices echoing softly through the valley, mingling with the ripples of river water and the rustling of leaves. The foam-born beings shimmered closer to the banks, their luminous forms curling around rocks and reeds. They produced gentle, musical tones that floated into the air, almost like a lullaby for the land. Mortals dipped their hands into the water, feeling the slight warmth of the shimmering currents. Though the water touched them lightly, a sense of calm filled their hearts. Mnemosyne, watching quietly from a hilltop, observed the bonds forming. She whispered softly to herself, her tone like wind through reeds. Memory is born not just in thought, but in shared experience. These moments will linger, shaping hearts and minds in ways they do not yet know. Cronus's gaze swept across the valley. Even the smallest mortals were learning patience, respect, and care. He glanced at Rhea, her presence steady beside him, and spoke softly. "They grow in trust, not fear," he said. Even the giants and foam-born beings learn from their example. Harmony spreads in quiet ways, as we hoped it would. The giants began moving gently through the forests, carefully brushing past trees and shrubs without harming them. The foam-born beings glided through streams, leaving traces of light on the water's surface. Mortals followed, learning to move with attention, to notice the rhythm of the land, and to act without disruption. Oceanus watched from the farthest rivers, his waters flowing with gentle curiosity. Hyperion cast long rays of sunlight across the valleys, warming the land without harshness. Themis observed every interaction, noting where balance was maintained and where gentle guidance might be needed. Even the Cyclopes, one-eyed and immense, watched over the valleys with quiet care, their deep voices rumbling in soft tones when they offered advice or guidance. Gaia's heart thrummed in quiet satisfaction. Beneath the surface of her soil, roots intertwined with the growing giant steps. She whispered softly through streams and winds. "See how they learn. See how care begets harmony. Even what rises from the shadows can bring light when guided with patience." Cronus, feeling the pulse of the land beneath his feet, pressed his hand gently to the earth. "The balance holds," he said softly, "and yet we must remain watchful. Even gentle hearts can be tested, and the seeds of change stir quietly." As the day progressed, bonds formed subtly. A giant helped build a simple bridge across a stream, guided by the careful hands of mortals. Foam-born beings created gentle light paths and rivers, illuminating safe crossings. Mortals sang songs of gratitude, their voices carrying across valleys and rivers, touching titans, giants, and foam-born alike. Rhea leaned against Cronus, her voice soft. "Look, brother. They are learning not just from us, but from each other. Harmony is shared, not commanded." Cronus nodded, a calm weight settling in his chest. "Yes, and this lesson, though quiet, will echo through the world. One day, even the smallest actions will shape the future." Night fell gently over the valleys. Stars shimmered, reflecting upon rivers and lakes. Giants rested among cliffs, foam-born beings glided in calm waters, and mortals returned home, hearts filled with wonder and gentle curiosity. Even in this calm, the subtle stirrings of Uranus's blood beneath the earth pulsed faintly. Gaia whispered softly, not as warning, but as quiet guidance. "Balance holds for now. But every bond, every life, every step carries the weight of tomorrow." The age of Cronus glowed in gentle light, golden and serene, yet beneath it, the seeds of future change had begun to root, growing quietly, patiently, and unseen. The sun rose slowly over the golden valleys, painting the meadows with a soft, warm light. Rivers sparkled, glinting like scattered jewels, and the wind whispered lightly through the trees. Giants moved carefully among the forests, and foam-born beings glided along the gentle curves of rivers, their luminous forms reflecting the sunlight. Mortals ventured into the valleys once more, guided by memory and gentle curiosity. Children ran ahead, pointing to the sparkling foam on the water, or marveling at the delicate touch of a giant's hand upon the grass. All was calm, yet beneath this serenity, a quiet shift had begun. Some giants noticed small differences in the world around them. Where rivers curved or stones jutted from the ground, they felt resistance. Roots tangled unexpectedly, rocks uneven beneath their feet. Their immense strength caused minor disturbances without meaning to. When a giant lifted a fallen tree to clear a path, the smaller plants beneath it bent or broke, and the mortals nearby flinched softly. Foam-born beings, too, encountered subtle challenges. Currents they had glided across effortlessly the day before now rippled unpredictably. Shimmering lights flickered or scattered, creating fleeting reflections that startled the children playing by the riverbanks. They paused, unsure how to respond to these small, shifting patterns. Cronus and Rhea walked slowly through the valleys, observing. Cronus's hand rested upon the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. He looked upon the giants, then the foam-born beings, and then the mortals, seeing the small misunderstandings and pauses that rippled through the Golden Age. Even in harmony, he said softly to Rhea, subtle changes ripple outward. Nothing remains perfectly still, even in calm. Rhea nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face as she looked at a child laughing after briefly stumbling near a giant's foot. And yet, she said gently, each pause, each small misstep can teach patience. These moments are not mistakes, but lessons. The giants began to understand. They slowed their movements further, listening to the soft hum of the earth beneath them. They bent with care over delicate flowers and watched how mortals stepped lightly across soft soil. Their voices, when they spoke, were quieter, more considerate, as if the weight of their presence demanded thoughtfulness. The foam-born beings, shimmering like liquid moonlight, learned to navigate the rivers with greater attention. They observed the currents, the reflections, and the mortals' hands reaching into the water, adjusting their paths to avoid startling them. Their musical tones, soft and lyrical, flowed gently across the land, encouraging harmony through subtle rhythm. Mortals, in turn, began to anticipate these gentle adjustments. They watched the giants' careful movements, following paths cleared thoughtfully through forests. They paused near rivers as the foam-born beings glided by, their hands hovering just above the shimmering surface. Mutual understanding began to grow, soft and deliberate, without force or command. Mnemosyne watched from a distant hill, her thoughts drifting like wind through the leaves. She whispered softly, carrying memory into the present. Even subtle shifts hold lessons for all. Patience, observation, and care are stronger than sudden actions. This is how bonds are truly formed. Cronus and Rhea walked on in quiet harmony, guiding where needed but mostly observing. They felt the balance of the land as a gentle hum beneath their feet, sensing both the calm and the faint ripple of changes that could grow if ignored. Gaia, deep within, breathed a soft murmur through roots and rivers. Balance is delicate, she whispered. Even the kindest hearts must listen to subtle shifts, or harmony may falter without notice. As twilight fell, painting the skies with pink and violet hues, the giants settled among the cliffs and valleys. Foam-born beings glided along the calm waters, their forms dimming gently with the fading light. Mortals returned to their homes, their hearts quiet but full of curiosity, having learned another layer of patience and care. The Golden Age endured, serene and bright, yet beneath the calm, gentle lessons of balance were unfolding. Every footstep, every ripple, every glance was shaping a deeper understanding of harmony, preparing all beings for what might come in the subtle, slow turns of time. The morning light spread across the valleys with soft brilliance. Rivers mirrored the sky, mountains cast long, slow shadows, and meadows swayed in the whispering breeze. Giants roamed the forests and hills, their steps careful, mindful of the lessons learned from yesterday. Foam-born beings shimmered along the water, moving with quiet grace, leaving trails of gentle light behind them. Mortals began to notice small patterns forming in the behavior of these new beings. Children laughed as they discovered a foam-born gliding near reeds, creating luminous ripples that seemed to dance with their movements. Adults observed how the giants bent carefully over small streams, placing stones to create smooth crossings for humans and animals alike. Yet a subtle curiosity stirred among the giants. Some had begun to wonder about the distant mountains, the hidden valleys, and even the forests they had not yet explored. They paused, listening to the wind and feeling the pulse of Gaia beneath their enormous feet. One particularly tall giant stopped at the edge of a river, gazing down at the foam-born beings that shimmered across the water. Why do they move so differently from us? It asked, its voice soft yet deep. They glide, yet do not disturb. We step, yet leave impressions. Can we learn from them? A smaller giant beside it nodded slowly. Perhaps, it replied. We are strong and steady. They are delicate and fluid. Both can shape the world in their own ways. If we watch carefully, we may grow in understanding. Cronus and Rhea observed from a nearby ridge, their eyes calm but attentive. Rhea's voice, quiet and soothing, floated down to them. Watch, but do not act too quickly. Curiosity is natural, yet wisdom comes from patience. Cronus's gaze rested on the giants, then shifted to the foam-born beings. All life has its rhythm, he said softly. Even in harmony, there are differences. Each being carries its own way of moving through the world. Learning from each other strengthens balance. Meanwhile, mortals watched with gentle awe. A child reached toward a foam-born being, which shimmered closer and created a trail of sparkling light across the surface of the river. The child's laughter was mirrored by the ripples, and the giant nearby crouched slightly, careful not to startle either. Mnemosyne, perched upon a distant hill, whispered through the air and leaves. Memory grows not only from repetition, but from the first spark of wonder. Curiosity, when guided with care, becomes the seed of understanding. The giants began to experiment slowly, testing gentle movements, observing how their actions affected the rivers, forests, and mortals. Foam-born beings adjusted their glide, learning the subtle rhythms of the giant's steps. Mortals responded with quiet attention, moving carefully, speaking softly, and learning to coexist with beings far larger and more luminous than themselves. Even Oceanus and Hyperion were observed from afar. The waters of the rivers flowed more smoothly as the foam-born beings moved in harmony with the giants, and sunlight danced across the valleys in patterns that seemed to reflect the slow cooperation between all creatures. Gaia's deep presence pulsed softly beneath the land. Harmony is being tested gently, she whispered. Curiosity, when met with patience, will strengthen all life. Let them move carefully, and balance will hold. As the day faded into evening, subtle lessons of understanding and observation had taken root. The giants learned restraint. The foam-born beings refined their movements. Mortals grew aware of the delicate balance surrounding them. Even the smallest interactions, whether a hand touching water or a footstep on soft grass, carried meaning. Cronus stood with Rhea atop the ridge, watching the valley bathed in the golden glow of dusk. See, he said softly, even small questions can lead to growth. Harmony is not only maintained by calm, but by gentle exploration. Rhea smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And when they learn together, their steps will echo beyond this age, shaping not only today, but all that comes after. The stars began to shimmer overhead, reflecting softly in the rivers and lakes. Giants rested among cliffs, foam-born beings drifted along calm waters, and mortals returned home with hearts filled with quiet curiosity. The Golden Age endured, serene yet alive with gentle learning, and beneath it, subtle currents of discovery began weaving through the world. The morning unfolded quietly over the golden valleys. Mist lingered in the hollows between mountains, curling around cliffs and rolling softly across rivers. Giants wandered carefully through the forests, their enormous forms mindful of the lessons learned over the past days. Foam-born beings glided along the water with delicate movements, their shimmering forms reflecting the sun's gentle rays. Mortals followed the rhythms of this new world with gentle attention. Children ran along riverbanks, pausing to watch foam-born beings create shimmering patterns in the water. Adults moved with soft steps, placing stones carefully for safe crossings or clearing paths through tall grass. All was peaceful, yet beneath this calm, the first subtle missteps began to appear. A young giant, curious about a distant valley, shifted its weight too quickly. A boulder beneath its foot rolled gently, sending a low rumble across the valley. Foam-born beings nearby scattered slightly, their luminous trails flickering unpredictably. Mortals stopped in surprise, though no one was harmed. A hush settled over the area, broken only by the soft rush of the river. The giant's eyes widened. It bent low, touching the earth with careful hands, murmuring quietly, "I did not mean to disturb." How do I move without breaking what surrounds me? Nearby, another giant, older and slower, stepped forward with a gentle smile. We learn by noticing, not by rushing, it said softly. Feel the earth, the water, the life around you. Listen to its rhythm. Foam-born beings floated closer, shimmering in patterns of soft light. One of them touched the water, creating a trail that mirrored the gentle motion of the giant's hands. Its musical tones carried over the river, soothing the minor disruption. Mortals watched with curiosity. A young child laughed softly as the ripple of light spread across the water, turning what could have been a moment of surprise into a playful dance. Adults exchanged calm glances, understanding that even in moments of small disturbance, harmony could be restored through attention and care. Cronus and Rhea walked slowly along the edge of the valley. Cronus's hand rested upon the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. He observed the gentle misstep and the responses that followed. Even the smallest errors, he said softly to Rhea, teach us how to move with greater awareness. Harmony is not only in calm, but in correction. Rhea nodded, her eyes soft. Yes, and notice how quickly they adjust. Even gentle creatures, when guided with patience, find the rhythm of the world. Mnemosyne, seated on a distant hill, whispered through the air. Memory carries lessons not only in words but in experience. A misstep, when met with care, becomes a path to understanding. Each ripple, each pause shapes the future. The young giant straightened slowly, its eyes focused on the river. Foam-born beings glided alongside, adjusting their patterns to meet its cautious movements. Mortals stepped softly, observing and learning. Even the wind seemed to carry a gentle hush, as if the world itself paused to allow understanding to bloom. Cronus knelt, pressing his hand gently to the earth. He could feel the pulse of life, subtle yet steady, responding to each touch, each careful adjustment. Balance, he murmured, is maintained not by perfection, but by attention. Every creature, every movement contributes to the whole. As the day unfolded, other small missteps occurred. A child startled a foam-born being, a giant's foot pressed too heavily upon a patch of grass, a river current shifted slightly under the passage of shimmering forms. Each time the response was gentle, patient, and understanding. No harm came, only lessons in movement, care, and the subtleties of coexistence. By evening, the valleys were quiet again. The giants rested in cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along calm waters, and mortals returned home with hearts full of reflection. Even in these soft disturbances, harmony remained, strengthened by attention, observation, and gentle correction. Gaia's voice pulsed quietly through the roots and rivers. Even the smallest missteps have purpose. Observe, learn, and move with care. Balance endures not in perfection, but in gentle correction. Cronus and Rhea stood together on a ridge, watching the valley bathe in twilight. See, Rhea said softly, even errors can become lessons when approached with calm and patience. Cronus pressed his hand to the earth once more, feeling the subtle hum of life. Yes, and so harmony grows stronger, not despite missteps, but because of them. The stars began to shimmer overhead, casting soft light across valleys, rivers, and forests. The golden age continued, serene and bright, yet beneath the calm, the world quietly learned the value of gentle correction, awareness, and the soft guidance that would shape the days to come. The sun rose slowly over the golden valleys, spilling light across rivers, meadows, and forested hills. Mist curled softly along the edges of streams, drifting over rocks and grass in delicate waves. Giants stirred from their resting places, stretching their massive limbs carefully. Foam-born beings glided along the water's curves, shimmering like liquid moonlight, moving gently with the current. Mortals emerged from their homes, hearts light with curiosity. Children laughed as they ran toward the rivers, discovering the soft, radiant trails left by the foam-born beings. Adults followed more slowly, observing the gentle patterns of movement created by the giants as they navigated valleys and forests. Harmony, though tested in small ways the day before, had been maintained, and now a new layer began to form: trust. A young giant knelt beside a small child who had wandered too close to a sparkling stream. Its enormous hands hovered carefully over the child, and the child did not flinch. Instead, the child reached up, touching the giant's hand lightly. The giant smiled, a deep rumble vibrating softly through the valley, and lowered its hand in a gesture of reassurance. Nearby, a foam-born being drifted closer to a group of mortals sitting on the riverbank. It glimmered softly, circling them without disturbing the water. The mortals watched in awe, feeling no fear, only gentle wonder. The being's luminous form pulsed with a calm rhythm, almost as if it were communicating through the subtle motion of light. Cronus and Rhea observed from a ridge, their presence calm and patient. Cronus's hand rested on the hilt of the sickle, but he did not draw it. He watched the giants and foam-born beings interact with mortals, noting the subtle exchanges of trust, the quiet understanding growing in each glance, each touch, each careful step. "They are learning to trust," Rhea whispered softly, "and in doing so, they are teaching the mortals to trust them as well." Cronus nodded, his eyes sweeping across the valley. "Trust is fragile," he said gently. "It grows in small moments, in patience and attention, in quiet gestures that carry meaning beyond words." A small group of mortals followed a giant as it carefully guided them through a forest path. The giant's steps were deliberate, avoiding delicate plants and fallen branches. The mortals moved with similar care, mimicking the gentle rhythm. Along the river, foam-born beings adjusted their glides to match the pace of children, illuminating safe paths with shimmering light. Even the older giants, slower and more deliberate in their movements, began forming subtle connections with mortals. One knelt to watch a child scoop water from a river, guiding their hand with a massive but gentle finger. The child giggled softly, feeling the warmth and steadiness beneath the giant's touch. Namasini watched from a distant hill, her voice a soft whisper, carried on the wind. Memory and trust are built together. Each careful step, each patient gesture, becomes a thread connecting hearts. This connection will grow slowly, quietly, strengthening all life in ways yet unseen. Cronus pressed a hand gently to the earth, feeling its pulse beneath him. He sensed the harmony that trust created, a subtle strengthening of the balance that had already been established. Even the small missteps of the past days contributed to this growth, teaching all beings patience, awareness, and care. Gaia's soft presence flowed through the roots and rivers, carrying a quiet encouragement. Trust is the gift of understanding. When hearts open gently, the world itself becomes stronger. Each bond, though small, is a foundation for what will come. As the day progressed, small acts of trust multiplied. Giants helped mortals build shelters along riverbanks, their immense strength applied with careful precision. Foam-born beings guided children across shallow streams, creating trails of light that shimmered and pulsed gently with each movement. Mortals responded with kindness and attentiveness, learning the rhythm of coexistence with these extraordinary beings. By evening, the valley glowed softly with reflected sunlight on rivers and forests. Giants settled among cliffs, foam-born beings drifted in calm waters, and mortals returned home with hearts full of wonder and gentle confidence. Even in this quiet golden age, the seeds of trust and friendship were taking root, forming the beginnings of a bond that would shape the days to come. Rhea placed a hand gently on Cronus's arm. "See, brother," she said softly, "harmony grows stronger when trust is allowed to bloom." Cronus nodded, a quiet warmth settling in his chest. "Yes, and these bonds, though small now, will carry far into the future." Every gesture of care echoes beyond the moment. The stars began to appear in the twilight sky, shimmering softly above the golden valleys. Harmony endured, serene and bright, and beneath the calm, gentle threads of trust and connection wove themselves quietly through the world, preparing all life for the next steps of discovery and understanding. Morning light spread slowly across the golden valleys, spilling over meadows, rivers, and the gentle slopes of the mountains. Mist curled softly around cliffs and streams, drifting in delicate waves that blurred the edges of the forests. The air was calm, filled with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. Giants moved through the trees with careful, measured steps, their immense forms bending low over the undergrowth. Foam-born beings glided across the rivers and streams, their luminous forms shifting with the currents, leaving trails of soft light that danced across the water like captured stars. Mortals emerged from their homes, hearts light with curiosity. Children skipped toward the rivers, laughing as they reached for the sparkling trails left by the foam-born beings. Adults followed with slower, deliberate steps, watching the careful movements of giants navigating the forests and valleys. Harmony, while maintained, now carried a subtle new layer, curiosity. Questions, gentle and unspoken, stir in the hearts of all beings. A young giant paused beside a riverbank, tilting its head as it observed a foam-born being gliding gracefully along the water's surface. Its voice rumbled softly, like distant thunder over a quiet valley. "How do they move so lightly across the water?" the giant asked, almost to itself. "I step, and even the smallest plants bend beneath me. Yet they float, untouched. How can this be?" An older giant, taller still but slower in movement, crouched beside the first. Its voice was softer, like wind brushing through reeds. "Perhaps they listen to the currents," it said. "Perhaps they feel the pulse of the water and the land as we do, yet in ways we have not yet learned." A foam-born being circled closer, shimmering more brightly with each motion. Its form pulsed like the gentle beat of a heart, almost as if it were communicating without words. It glided slowly around a young giant, letting the ripples of the river show the subtle patterns of light and motion it followed. The giant's eyes widened, and it began to mimic the motion with its enormous hands, bending carefully and touching the water in ways that left only small, temporary ripples. Nearby, a group of mortals had gathered. They watched in awe, whispering softly to one another. A young woman leaned toward a boy beside her. "Do they understand us?" she asked quietly. "Or are we learning to understand them? Everything they do feels so deliberate, yet effortless." The boy nodded slowly, tracing the patterns of light on the river with his fingers, careful not to disturb the shimmer. "It feels like they are teaching us," he whispered. "Even without words, I feel as if the water is speaking to us, telling us how to move and be." Cronus and Rhea watched from a ridge above the valley. Cronus's hand rested lightly on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. His gaze swept over the valley, noting the careful interactions. He saw giants adjusting their steps, foam-born beings guiding the flow of the rivers with luminous patterns, and mortals learning to move in sync with these gentle rhythms. Even questions, he murmured softly to Rhea, carry meaning. They are the first stirrings of understanding, the quiet thread that binds all beings. Rhea's eyes were soft with warmth. "Yes," she said, "and when questions are asked with patience, they build trust. Every glance, every gesture, every ripple in the water becomes part of a larger harmony." Mnemosyne watched from a distant hilltop, her presence calm and attentive. Her whispers drifted through the air and trees. Curiosity is the seed of memory. Every question carries weight, and every answer, even unspoken, shapes understanding. Observe carefully, and the heart learns without being told. The giants leaned closer to the foam-born beings, cautious yet eager. One knelt beside the riverbank, fingertips skimming the water where the shimmering being glided. Its immense eyes followed the flow of light, tracing the subtle currents and learning to move in a way that would leave the smallest impression on the earth. Another giant, inspired, stepped lightly through the forest, noticing how branches and leaves bent just enough to allow passage, without snapping or bruising. Mortals mirrored these actions. A child crouched near a pond, watching how a foam-born being navigated the ripples without disturbance. They moved their hands slowly through the water, creating patterns that reflected light without breaking the smooth surface. Adults observed quietly, speaking in hushed tones, encouraging attention, care, and awareness. Cronus pressed a hand gently to the earth, feeling the pulse beneath him. He sensed the subtle learning, the flow of understanding between giants, foam-born beings, and mortals. "Harmony grows," he murmured, "when questions are asked with care, when each creature listens not only with their eyes and ears but with their presence." Rhea brushed a strand of hair from her face and looked across the valley. "See how observation teaches," she said softly. "Even in moments of gentle uncertainty, life finds its rhythm. They learn without fear, guided by attention and patience." Foam-born beings glided along rivers and streams, adjusting their paths to reflect the subtle motions of giants and mortals. Light danced on water, shifting in delicate patterns that mirrored each careful step, touch, and glance. Even Oceanus's waters flowed more smoothly, reflecting sunlight as Hyperion's rays touched the land in gentle patterns. As evening approached, the valley glowed with the last golden light. Giants rested atop cliffs, foam-born beings drifted along calm waters, and mortals returned home with hearts full of curiosity and quiet reflection. Every question asked and every observation made had become part of a shared understanding, strengthening the bonds of harmony. Gaia whispered softly beneath the earth and waters. Curiosity is the gift that shapes harmony. Nurture it gently, and even the smallest question can open pathways to understanding, weaving trust and awareness into every step of life. Cronus stood beside Rhea, gazing over the valley as twilight painted the sky in soft pinks and violets. "See," he said, "even the gentlest questions guide growth. They do not disrupt the calm, but weave new threads of understanding through the world." Stars began to appear overhead, twinkling softly in the deepening night. Rivers reflected their light, and the shimmering forms of foam-born beings glided across the surface, now carrying the rhythm of curiosity, patience, and quiet learning. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, wonder, and gentle questioning deepened, preparing all life for the lessons of tomorrow. The morning sun rose slowly, painting the valleys in soft golden hues. Rivers glistened, reflecting the pale light as mist curled gently over the meadows. Forests swayed in the quiet breeze, and the air carried the faint fragrance of blooming flowers and damp earth. Giants moved through the trees with careful deliberation, their enormous forms bending over moss and undergrowth, leaving the delicate plants untouched. Foam-born beings glided along rivers and streams, shimmering with soft radiance, their reflections dancing on the water like captured starlight. Mortals emerged from their homes, their hearts filled with quiet anticipation. Children ran toward the rivers, pointing to the luminous trails left by foam-born beings, their laughter blending softly with the distant rustling of leaves. Adults followed with measured steps, observing the giants' careful movements through the forests and across the open meadows. The Golden Age continued, serene yet alive with subtle curiosity, and now a new layer began to form, shared discovery. A young giant knelt beside a river, watching the foam-born beings as they glided gracefully across the water. "Look," it said softly to another giant, "the water moves differently when they pass. See the patterns. The ripples curve around them as if the river itself knows their steps." The older giant crouched beside the first, its eyes following the shimmering trails. "It is as if they are teaching the river to dance," it said, voice low and deliberate. "If we watch carefully, we may learn too." Nearby, mortals observed the giants and foam-born beings, whispering softly to one another. A young girl bent over a puddle, tracing the ripples with her fingertips, learning to follow the subtle motion. "They move so gently," she murmured to her companion. "I want to learn how to move like that too." The foam-born beings pulsed with gentle light, circling the giants and mortals in slow, deliberate patterns. Their soft musical tones filled the valley, weaving around the rustle of trees and the flowing rivers. Children laughed quietly as the lights danced around their hands, learning through touch and observation. Even the adults found themselves pausing, entranced by the gentle rhythm that guided every movement. Cronus and Rhea walked along a ridge above the valley, observing without interruption. Cronus's hand rested on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. He felt the subtle exchanges of understanding and learning, the delicate balance of curiosity and patience. "See," he said softly to Rhea, "they are discovering not just the world around them, but one another." Harmony grows stronger when life learns together. Rhea smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft morning light. "Yes," she whispered. "Even the smallest observation, the quietest imitation, carries meaning. Shared learning strengthens trust and understanding in ways words cannot." Mnemosyne, seated on a distant hill, watched silently. Her whisper drifted across the valley like wind through reeds. Memory and knowledge grow not in isolation, but through shared experience. Each careful glance, each mirrored step, strengthens the bonds that will endure across time. The young giant extended its massive hand toward a foam-born being, moving slowly so as not to disturb the water. The being responded by curving its luminous form around the giant's fingers, illuminating a trail that reflected both movement and intention. The giant followed carefully, learning the subtle pulse of the river and the delicate rhythm of light that mirrored each step. Mortals nearby mimicked the motions, moving carefully along the riverbank, learning to anticipate the patterns of water and light. A small boy laughed quietly as he noticed how his reflection danced in the shimmering trails, bending and stretching in harmony with the foam-born being. His laughter was mirrored by the gentle hum of the giants' voices, deep and calm, blending with the soft music of the river and the wind. Cronus pressed a hand gently to the earth, feeling the pulse of life beneath his feet. Discovery, he murmured, is a gentle teacher. It does not demand understanding immediately, but guides it slowly, patiently, and with care. All creatures, mortal and immortal alike, learn in this way. The giants began moving more confidently, their steps deliberate yet graceful, echoing the lessons learned from the foam-born beings. They helped mortals navigate forests, pointing out hidden pathways, moss-covered stones, and gentle slopes that would otherwise go unnoticed. Foam-born beings shimmered alongside, highlighting safe crossings over rivers and illuminating hidden wonders in the valleys. Even Oceanus's waters flowed more smoothly, reflecting sunlight in patterns that mirrored the careful movements of all who dwelled in the valley. Hyperion's rays danced across the land, enhancing the shimmer of foam-born beings and the golden hue of the giant's skin. The mortals observed, copying movements and gestures, learning the rhythms that united them with the creatures around them. As evening approached, the sky was painted with shades of rose, lavender, and gold. Giants rested among cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along rivers and streams, and mortals returned home with hearts filled with quiet wonder and reflection. Every careful step, every observation, every gentle imitation had deepened understanding and strengthened trust between all beings. Gaia's presence pulsed softly beneath the earth, sending warmth and encouragement through the land. Shared discovery is the thread that binds life together, she whispered. Observe, learn, and move gently, and the bonds of harmony will grow ever stronger. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, watching the valley bask in twilight's soft glow. See how life learns not alone, but together, he said softly. Even the quietest moments of discovery ripple across the world, shaping harmony in ways both seen and unseen. Stars began to shimmer overhead, reflecting softly in rivers, lakes, and dew-laden meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals alike rested, carrying within them the gentle lessons of shared discovery. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, and understanding grew stronger, preparing all life for the lessons yet to come. Morning light spilled softly across the valleys, brushing the rivers with gentle warmth. Mist hovered above the meadows and hills, curling slowly around rocks and trees. The giants stirred from their resting places atop cliffs, stretching slowly, mindful of the delicate balance of the land. Foam-born beings drifted along the rivers, shimmering with calm, luminescent light, their movements slow and deliberate. Mortals stepped out from their homes, hearts filled with quiet curiosity. Children laughed softly as they followed the shimmering trails of the foam-born beings along riverbanks. Adults moved carefully, observing the giants' enormous forms navigating the forests and meadows with patient attention. Harmony continued, serene yet alive with subtle motion. But even in this calm, small challenges began to appear, soft ripples of misunderstanding, curiosity, and misalignment. A young giant paused at the edge of a forest, observing a cluster of foam-born beings gliding along a stream. One of the beings shifted its pattern unexpectedly, crossing the path the giant had planned to follow. The giant hesitated, unsure how to adjust its movement without causing disturbance. Its massive foot hovered above the ground, almost touching the soft grass, and the child nearby flinched gently. The foam-born being, sensing the giant's pause, swirled in a slow, luminous arc, guiding the giant around a small patch of reeds. The giant followed cautiously, bending its limbs in careful arcs to avoid crushing the delicate vegetation. Its deep voice rumbled softly. I did not expect the river to move this way. How can I follow without disturbing the flow? An older giant, observing nearby, offered a quiet response. The flow is not ours to control, it said gently. We can only adjust, learning the rhythm of the world as it moves, not as we wish it to be. The child beside the first giant nodded slowly, watching how the movement of foam-born beings shaped the patterns of water and light. It is like a dance, the child whispered, and we must learn the steps. Cronus and Rhea walked along a ridge above the valley, watching the interactions with quiet attentiveness. Cronus's hand rested on the hilt of his sickle, though he did not draw it. Even in calm, he murmured to Rhea, small challenges arise. Harmony is strengthened not by avoiding them, but by responding with care and patience. Rhea smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Yes, misalignment teaches observation. Even gentle disruption carries a lesson if met with attention rather than haste. Namasini watched from a distant hill, her presence a quiet wind that rustled through leaves and grasses. Her whisper drifted across the valley. Even the smallest challenge can shape understanding. Notice, adjust, and move with care. Each ripple becomes a thread in the greater fabric of life. Elsewhere, mortals encountered minor misalignments of their own. A child attempted to mimic a foam-born being's glide across a shallow stream, only to splash slightly, breaking the reflection of light. The giant beside the child lowered its enormous hand to help guide the child's fingers gently back to the water's surface. Laughter bubbled softly, turning a moment of surprise into a lesson in patience and observation. A group of giants tried to assist mortals in building a small bridge across a stream. Their immense strength sometimes caused stones to shift or small plants to bend. Foam-born beings glided alongside, illuminating the safest placements for rocks with gentle arcs of light, guiding giants and mortals alike without words. The mortals learned to step carefully, observing not only the giants' movements, but the subtle hints provided by the luminous beings. Cronus pressed a hand lightly to the earth, feeling its pulse beneath him. Even subtle challenges, he said softly, teach adjustment. They remind all beings to move with awareness, to notice the world around him, and to act with care. Rhea nodded, her gaze sweeping over the valley. Harmony is strengthened not in ease, but in the patient response to shifting patterns. Every adjustment builds resilience, understanding, and trust. Foam-born beings pulsed along rivers, guiding both giants and mortals through areas where missteps could occur. Their soft light created gentle trails, showing where careful attention was needed. Giants bent slowly, adapting their enormous movements to avoid disruption. Mortals followed, stepping in rhythm with the flow of light, learning the subtle balance of cooperation. As evening fell, painting the sky in muted shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into quiet serenity. Giants rested atop cliffs and in meadows, foam-born beings drifted along calm waters, and mortals returned to their homes with hearts filled with gentle reflection. Even in the presence of minor challenges, harmony endured, strengthened by the careful responses, observation, and attention of all creatures. Gaia whispered softly beneath the earth, sending warmth and encouragement through the roots, rivers, and soil. Challenges are opportunities, she murmured. Observe, adapt, and move with care. Every small misalignment becomes a lesson, every careful response a thread in the web of life. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, watching twilight descend upon the valley. See how even the gentlest challenges guide understanding, he said softly. Harmony grows not by avoiding missteps, but by learning from them together. Stars appeared slowly in the deepening sky, twinkling above the calm rivers and glowing meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals alike carry the quiet lessons of the day, learning to respond with patience and awareness. Beneath the serene calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, and understanding intertwine more firmly, preparing all life for the days of discoveries yet to come. The morning sun rose softly over the valleys, spreading pale gold across rivers, meadows, and gentle hills. Mist lingered among the trees and rocks, curling delicately over streams and grass. The air carried the faint fragrance of wildflowers and damp earth. Giants moved carefully through forests and meadows, their enormous forms bending with consideration for the plants and creatures beneath them. Foam-born beings glided along the rivers and streams, leaving luminous trails that reflected the soft sunlight, dancing across the water like scattered stars. Mortals emerged from their homes with quiet curiosity, their hearts light with anticipation. Children ran toward the shimmering trails of foam-born beings, their laughter soft and joyous, blending with the gentle rustle of leaves and distant song of birds. Adults followed, moving carefully along the paths cleared by the giants, observing how each creature interacted with the world and one another. Harmony, serene yet alive with subtle motion, continued to shape the days, and now another layer began to form. Lessons learned quietly through observation and reflection. A young giant knelt beside a river, watching the foam-born beings glide along the water. Notice, it murmured to an older companion, how the light bends around them, how each ripple follows their movement without breaking. There is a rhythm here, almost like a song without sound. The older giant nodded slowly, lowering its gaze to the water. Yes, it said softly, every movement matters. Even the smallest ripple teaches care, patience, and understanding. The world speaks in whispers if we take the time to listen. Nearby, mortals observed as well. A young boy crouched by the riverbank, his fingers skimming the water, tracing the luminous trails left by the foam-born beings. He paused, noticing how the light shifted when he moved his hand too quickly. Smiling softly, he adjusted his movements, learning from the gentle correction provided by the environment itself. Cronus and Rhea walked along a ridge, their eyes calm and attentive. Cronus's hand rested lightly on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. See, he murmured to Rhea, even the quietest lessons shape understanding. Observation, patience, and careful reflection teach far more than words ever could. Rhea smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Yes, each being learns at its own pace. Even giants and mortals alike grow through small, careful steps, guided by the rhythm of the world around them. Mnemosyne watched from a distant hilltop, presence flowing gently through the valley like wind through reeds. Her whisper drifted on the air. Memory forms not in haste, but in reflection. Every gentle observation, every careful adjustment, strengthens understanding and leaves a trace that endures beyond the moment. The young giant shifted slightly, lifting a hand above the water and letting its fingertips trace the shimmering path of a foam-born being. The movement created small ripples, which the foam-born being mirrored, pulsing its light in gentle arcs. The giant leaned closer, studying the patterns, learning to move without causing disruption, discovering the subtle balance between strength and care. Nearby, mortals practiced similar lessons. A young girl carefully followed the glowing trail of a foam-born being, her hands hovering above the water, learning to trace without touching, to move without disturbing. Her companion mirrored the motions of a giant, stepping lightly across moss-covered stones and soft earth, noticing how each motion shaped the flow of life around them. Cronus pressed a hand lightly to the earth beneath him, feeling the pulse of the land, the quiet hum of rivers, and the subtle vibrations of life. Even the smallest reflection carries meaning, he murmured. Through quiet attention, understanding grows. Every gentle movement becomes part of a larger harmony. Rhea nodded, her gaze sweeping across the valley. Yes, and when beings learn together, they form bonds that are stronger than mere presence. Each moment of reflection deepens trust, patience, and care. Foam-born beings drifted along the rivers and streams, creating gentle arcs of luminous guidance for both giants and mortals. Their soft musical tones mingled with the rustling leaves and flowing waters, teaching rhythm and patience without words. Giants adjusted their movements in response, bending slowly and deliberately to avoid disturbing the soft earth. Mortals mirror these motions, their hands and feet moving in rhythm with the glowing currents of light. Even Oceanus's waters and Hyperion's sunlight seemed to respond to these quiet lessons. Currents rippled softly, reflecting the delicate glimmers of foam-born beings. Sunlight danced across the valleys, highlighting each careful step, each gentle observation, each small moment of reflection. As evening approached, painting the sky in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into calm serenity. Giants rested on cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along quiet rivers, and mortals returned home with hearts full of reflection and understanding. Every gentle observation, every careful movement, every soft lesson learned in silence had strengthened the bonds of harmony, patience, and trust. Gaia's presence pulsed beneath the earth and waters, sending warmth through roots, stones, and soil. Even quiet lessons, she whispered softly, carry great power. Observe, reflect, and move with care. Each small understanding is a thread that strengthens the fabric of life. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, gazing over the valley bathed in twilight. See how even silence can teach, he murmured. Through reflection, observation, and gentle attention, harmony grows deeper, more resilient, and more luminous. Stars began to shimmer in the twilight sky, their reflections rippling softly across rivers and lakes. Giants, Foam-born beings and mortals alike rested, carrying within them the quiet lessons of patience, observation, and understanding. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, and gentle learning intertwined ever more firmly, preparing all life for the days of discovery and reflection yet to come. The morning light spilled softly across the golden valleys, brushing rivers, meadows, and gentle slopes with warm, pale gold. Mist lingered along cliffs and meadows, curling delicately over streams and rocks. Forests swayed in a gentle breeze, and the air carried the subtle fragrance of wildflowers and damp earth. Giants moved carefully through the forests, their enormous forms bending with consideration, stepping lightly over moss and undergrowth. Foam-born beings glided along rivers, leaving shimmering trails that reflected the sunlight, moving with calm, deliberate grace. Mortals emerged from their homes, hearts filled with quiet anticipation. Children ran toward the rivers, their laughter soft and joyful, following the glowing trails left by foam-born beings. Adults moved carefully behind them, observing the giants' patient movements and the interplay of light on water. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and now another layer began to form, cooperation born from shared understanding. A young giant knelt beside a shallow stream, watching a foam-born being glide along the water. "Look," it murmured softly to another giant, "the light forms paths for us. If we follow it carefully, we can move together without disrupting the river or the plants." The older giant bent slightly, observing both the light and the flowing water. "Yes," it said in a low voice, "the world guides us when we pay attention. Cooperation is not forced. It is learned through observation and patience." Nearby, mortals joined the giants, attempting to cross the stream with gentle guidance. A young boy crouched by a stone, observing how the foam-born being moved around obstacles, leaving patterns of soft light that indicated safe footing. He lifted his hands slightly, mimicking the careful arcs of the being's movement, learning to step without disturbing the stones or the shallow water. The foam-born being pulsed with luminous light, circling the boy and guiding him along the safest path. It moved in slow, deliberate arcs, reflecting not only the flow of water, but also the rhythm of the boy's careful steps. A young girl followed, tracing the gentle path with her fingertips, her eyes wide with wonder. Cronus and Rhea watched from a ridge above the valley. Cronus's hand rested lightly on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. "See," he murmured softly to Rhea, "cooperation grows from shared observation and trust. When beings learn together, they move in harmony, strengthening all life." Rhea nodded, her eyes gentle. "Yes, every careful step, every mirrored movement, teaches not only balance but understanding. Cooperation is the rhythm of life, learned in stillness as much as in action." Mnemosyne watched from a distant hill, a presence quiet and flowing. Her voice drifted on the wind. Shared understanding fosters cooperation. Every gentle gesture, every observation, every patient step builds bonds that endure. Harmony grows through care, and care grows through connection. A giant extended its enormous hand to help a mortal cross the stream. The foam-born beings illuminated the path, pulsing with gentle light to indicate safe footing. The mortal stepped carefully, guided by both the giant's steady hand and the flowing patterns of light. Each step was deliberate, measured, and attentive, and soon more mortals followed the rhythm. Across the river, another giant worked in concert with a group of children, guiding them to place stones in a gentle arc to create a small crossing. Foam-born beings floated above the stones, shimmering to mark their positions and showing where balance was needed. The children laughed quietly, their voices mingling with the soft rumble of the giants and the gentle song of water flowing around them. Cronus pressed a hand gently to the earth beneath him, feeling the subtle pulse of life. "Even the simplest acts of cooperation carry power," he said softly. "When beings act together, observing, guiding, and learning from one another, the threads of harmony grow stronger than they could alone." Rhea's gaze swept over the valley. "Yes," she said softly. "Through shared care, understanding, and gentle guidance, every being becomes part of a larger rhythm. The world itself responds to these careful, cooperative movements." Foam-born beings continued to drift along the rivers, illuminating paths and guiding both giants and mortals. Their soft musical tones echoed across the valleys, blending with the rustle of trees, the flowing water, and the gentle murmur of life. Giants bent slowly, adjusting each step to avoid disturbance, while mortals mirrored their motions, learning the quiet art of coordination and care. Even Oceanus's waters reflected the growing harmony, rippling gently under the guidance of light and movement. Hyperion's sunlight highlighted the careful arcs of foam-born beings and the deliberate movements of giants, illuminating every step with soft radiance. The mortals observed, learning to step in rhythm with the flow of the world and the beings around them. As evening approached, painting the sky in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into quiet serenity. Giants rested atop cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along rivers and streams, and mortals returned home with hearts full of quiet satisfaction and reflection. Every careful movement, every observation, and every gentle act of cooperation had strengthened the bonds of trust and understanding. Gaia whispered beneath the earth and rivers, sending warmth through roots, stones, and soil. Cooperation is the song of life, she murmured. Observe, guide, and move with care. Every gentle act weaves the threads of harmony ever stronger. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, gazing over the valley as twilight softened the light. See how cooperation grows, he said softly, not through command or force, but through shared attention, gentle guidance, and careful observation. Harmony deepens in quiet partnership. Stars began to twinkle above the valley, reflecting softly in rivers, lakes, and dew-laden meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals rested, carrying with them the gentle lessons of cooperation. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, reflection, and shared purpose intertwined more firmly than ever, preparing all life for the days of wonder and discovery yet to come. Morning light spread softly over the valleys, brushing rivers, meadows, and gentle hills with pale gold. Mist lingered along cliffs and meadows, curling gently over streams and stones. Forests swayed in a calm breeze, and the air carried the soft fragrance of wildflowers, fresh grass, and damp earth. Giants moved carefully through forests and meadows, their enormous forms bending with thoughtfulness, mindful of every plant and creature beneath them. Foam-born beings drifted along rivers and streams, leaving trails of shimmering light that mirrored the sun's soft rays, their motion slow, deliberate, and mesmerizing. Mortals emerged from their homes, hearts light with quiet curiosity. Children ran toward the rivers, following the glowing arcs left by foam-born beings. Adults walked more slowly, observing the giants' careful movements and the interplay of light on the water. Harmony continued, serene yet alive, and now another layer began to form, the gentle shaping of shared creativity. A young giant knelt beside a river, observing a foam-born being gliding along the water. Look at how it curves the light, the giant murmured to an older companion. If we move together carefully, perhaps we can shape the world as gently as it does. The older giant bent low, eyes tracing the luminous patterns on the water. Yes, it said softly. Creation is not always grand. Sometimes it is the careful shaping of small things, with patience and attention. It leaves a mark without causing harm. Nearby, mortals followed their guidance. A young boy crouched by the riverbank, gathering small stones in a careful arrangement. He watched how the foam-born was gliding along, casting light over each stone. The patterns inspired him, guiding his placement, encouraging him to create a small structure that reflected the rhythm of the water. A young girl helped another child gather reeds and soft branches, weaving them into gentle arches over the water. Foam-born beings illuminated each movement, their soft glow marking safe placement and showing how each element could balance perfectly without disturbing the natural flow. Cronus and Rhea walked along a ridge overlooking the valley. Cronus pressed a hand gently to his chest, feeling the pulse of life and creativity. See, he whispered softly to Rhea, even the gentlest acts of creation grow from cooperation and observation. They do not disrupt the world. They honor it, shaping beauty with care. Rhea smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the early morning light. Yes, even the smallest creations carry meaning when done with attention and patience. Through them, beings learn not only skill but understanding, and the harmony of all life deepens. Mnemosyne watched silently from a distant hill, her presence calm and fluid. Her voice drifted across the valley like a whisper on the wind. Every gentle creation leaves a memory. Every careful act of shaping and building weaves understanding, trust, and care into the world. Observe, move with patience, and the land itself will teach you. The young giant extended a careful hand toward a cluster of stones and reeds, arranging them into a simple bridge across the river. Foam-born beings pulsed around it, guiding the placement with soft arcs of light. Mortals followed, learning to mimic the arcs and lines, moving carefully to preserve balance. Step by step, a small, harmonious structure took shape, blending with the river and the surrounding plants, reflecting the rhythm of the beings who shaped it. Elsewhere, another giant guided mortals in shaping a small garden of wildflowers and reeds along a gentle slope. Foam-born beings illuminated the best places to plant, their luminous arcs creating a soft map of rhythm and balance. Children laughed quietly as they placed stones to create flowing paths, learning the subtle art of working with life rather than against it. Cronus pressed his hand lightly to the earth, feeling its response beneath him. Creation, he murmured softly, is the gentle shaping of what already exists. When beings work together with care and patience, even the smallest act leaves a lasting mark of harmony and understanding. Rhea nodded, her gaze sweeping the valley. Yes, she said. Even without grand gestures, these quiet creations carry deep lessons. They teach cooperation, observation, patience, and respect for the world. Through them, bonds are strengthened, and the rhythm of life flows ever more smoothly. Foam-born beings drifted along rivers and streams, illuminating paths for both giants and mortals. Their soft light pulsed like a heartbeat, showing the way forward, not through force but through gentle guidance. Giants bent slowly, adjusting each movement to avoid disruption, while mortals mirrored their motions, learning the quiet art of creating together. Even Oceanus's waters reflected the growing harmony, flowing with delicate ripples that mirrored the gentle placements of stones, reeds, and plants. Hyperion's sunlight danced across the valley, highlighting the careful arcs of foam-born beings and the deliberate motions of giants. Mortals observed, learning to shape the world with soft attention, blending creativity and care. As evening fell, painting the sky in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into quiet serenity. Giants rested atop cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along calm rivers, and mortals returned home, hearts full of gentle satisfaction and wonder. Every careful creation, every mirrored motion, every softly shaped structure had strengthened the bonds of trust, curiosity, and shared harmony. Gaia whispered softly beneath the earth and rivers, sending warmth and encouragement through roots, stones, and soil. Creation is the echo of understanding, she murmured. Move with care, shape gently, and the threads of life will weave ever more beautifully. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, watching twilight settle over the valley. See how even quiet creation strengthens harmony, he said softly. Every thoughtful act, no matter how small, leave a mark that binds life together more deeply. Stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, reflecting softly in rivers, lakes, and dew-laden meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals rested, carrying the gentle lessons of shared creation in their hearts. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, reflection, cooperation, and creativity intertwined ever more firmly, preparing all life for the discoveries and joys yet to come. Morning light spilled gently across the valleys, brushing rivers, meadows, and hills with warm, soft gold. Mist lingered along cliffs and trees, curling slowly over streams and dew-covered grass. Forests swayed in the faint breeze, and the air carried the soft scent of wildflowers and fresh earth. Giants moved through the valleys and forests with care, their enormous forms bending gently to avoid disturbing the delicate flora. Foam-born beings glided across rivers and streams, leaving trails of shimmering light that danced on the water like captured stars. Mortals stepped out from their homes, hearts filled with quiet anticipation. Children laughed softly as they followed the glowing arcs left by foam-born beings, their small hands tracing light without touching it. Adults moved more slowly, observing the giant's careful steps and the interplay of light and shadow. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and now another layer began to form, sparks of gentle wonder. A young giant paused beside a riverbank, leaning close to watch foam-born beings shimmer across the water. Look at the patterns they make, It murmured softly to another giant. It is like the world itself is alive, teaching us quietly how to move, how to see. The older giant nodded slowly, lowering its gaze to the flowing river. Yes, it said gently. Even the smallest detail carries meaning. When we observe, we notice the subtle magic that surrounds us. Wonder grows where attention and care meet. Nearby, mortals observed as well. A young girl crouched by the river, tracing the luminous arcs left by a foam-born being with her fingertips. She gasped softly as the light reflected in the rippling water, creating shapes she had never seen before. Delicate curves, spirals, and shimmering arcs. It's like the river is telling a story, she whispered to a boy beside her. The boy nodded, eyes wide. Every ripple, every shimmer, it's alive. It teaches us to notice, to pause, to imagine. Cronus and Rhea walked along a ridge above the valley. Cronus's hand rested lightly on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. See, he murmured softly to Rhea. Even the quietest movements of the world spark wonder. Imagination grows in the spaces between observation and reflection, gently guiding beings to understand more than words can teach. Rhea smiled, her eyes reflecting the morning light. Yes, wonder is the heartbeat of learning. When beings are attentive, they discover beauty and magic in even the simplest moments. Mnemosyne watched from a distant hill, a presence flowing through the valley like a soft breeze. Her voice drifted on the wind. Curiosity and imagination are the companions of reflection. Each quiet moment of wonder becomes a memory, a spark that lights the path of understanding. The young giant extended a hand over the river, following the shimmer of a foam-born being. Its massive fingers hovered above the water, tracing the luminous trail without disturbing it. Light danced around the giant hand, shifting and swirling in response to the smallest movement. The giant leaned closer, marveling at the delicate patterns, feeling a sense of gentle awe at the subtle complexity of the world. Mortals nearby mirrored the giant's attention. A boy carefully balanced on a stone, observing how the foam-born being moved in arcs and spirals, guiding his steps and movements. A girl beside him arranged small reeds in gentle curves, inspired by the luminous patterns reflected on the water. Each creation became a reflection of wonder, a collaboration with light, water, and life itself. Cronus pressed a hand lightly to the earth beneath him, feeling the pulse of life and light flowing through the rivers, stones, and soil. Even small sparks of wonder, he murmured softly, can inspire action, reflection, and growth. They teach humility, patience, and appreciation. Rhea nodded, her gaze sweeping across the valley. Yes, through gentle observation and imagination, beings learn to see the world as it truly is, alive, responsive, and filled with quiet magic. Foam-born beings drifted along the rivers, illuminating the paths for giants and mortals alike. Their soft light pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding movement and encouraging attention. Giants bent carefully, moving in time with the patterns of light, while mortals mirrored each step, learning to observe and create in harmony. Even Oceanus's waters reflected the growing wonder, rippling softly under the guidance of light and movement. Hyperion's sunlight danced across the valley, highlighting each deliberate motion and illuminating every careful placement of stones, reeds, and flowers. Mortals and giants alike observed, learning to move gently, to notice deeply, and to let imagination blossom alongside careful attention. As evening approached, painting the sky in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into calm serenity. Giants rested atop cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along quiet rivers, and mortals returned home with hearts full of awe and quiet reflection. Every gentle observation, every mirrored motion, and every spark of imagination strengthened the bonds of trust, curiosity, creativity, and harmony. Gaia whispered softly beneath the earth and rivers, sending warmth and encouragement through roots, stones, and soil. Wonder is the spark that illuminates understanding, she murmured. Observe carefully, imagine freely, and the threads of life will weave ever more beautifully. Cronus stood beside Rhea on a ridge, gazing over the valley as twilight softened the light. See how sparks of wonder guide learning, he said softly. Through gentle attention, imagination, and care, harmony deepens and life grows ever more vibrant. Stars began to twinkle above the valley, reflecting softly in rivers, lakes, and dew-covered meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals rested, carrying the quiet sparks of wonder in their hearts. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, reflection, cooperation, creativity, and gentle imagination intertwined ever more firmly, preparing all life for the discoveries yet to come. The morning sun rose softly over the valleys, spilling pale gold across rivers, meadows, and gentle hills. Mist lingered among cliffs and trees, curling slowly over stones, flowers, and streams. Forests swayed with a quiet breeze, carrying the subtle scent of wildflowers and fresh earth. Giants moved through the valleys and forests with care, their enormous forms bending gently to avoid disturbing the delicate life beneath them. Foam-born beings drifted along rivers, leaving shimmering trails of soft light that reflected the sun's early rays. Mortals emerged from their homes with hearts full of quiet anticipation and gentle joy. Children laughed softly, tracing the glowing arcs left by foam-born beings, their small hands hovering above the luminous trails. Adults moved slowly, observing the giants' deliberate steps, the interplay of light and water, and the harmony shared among every being in the valley. This was a world that had grown together, day by day, through observation, cooperation, creation, wonder, and reflection, and now it reached a moment of gentle completeness. A young giant knelt beside a river, watching a foam-born being glide along the surface. "Look," it murmured softly to another giant, "the world flows with us, and we flow with it. Every movement, every gentle act has become part of this harmony." The older giant nodded, its gaze following the arcs of light. "Yes," it said gently. "Everything we have learned, every step we have taken together, has shaped the valley in quiet, lasting ways. Harmony endures because care is guided every moment." Nearby, mortals paused along the riverbank, reflecting on the days of gentle learning and creation. A young girl traced the shimmering trails of foam-born beings, remembering the patterns of light, the placements of stones, and the small structures she had helped create. "Everything we did mattered," she whispered to a boy beside her. "Every small step, every careful movement, every quiet act of imagination has made this place more beautiful." The boy smiled softly. "And it will continue, because we learned to move with care, to notice, and to imagine." Cronus and Rhea stood on a ridge above the valley, their presence calm and serene. Cronus's hand rested lightly on the hilt of the sickle, though he did not draw it. "See," he murmured softly to Rhea, "harmony is not a single act but a collection of many small, careful ones. Trust, cooperation, wonder, and reflection have woven together to create a living rhythm that will endure." Rhea smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, and this rhythm will guide every being here, teaching patience, care, and creativity through its gentle flow. Harmony is eternal where understanding and attention are practiced." Namasini watched from a distant hill, her presence flowing softly through the valley. Her voice drifted on the morning breeze. "Memory, attention, and reflection preserve harmony. Every small act, every quiet observation, every gentle creation contributes to a tapestry of enduring beauty. Carry these lessons forward, and they will echo through time." The giants extended their hands to mortals, guiding them across rivers and through meadows, ensuring safe passage and gentle interaction with the natural world. Foam-born beings shimmered above and alongside, illuminating paths and patterns, their soft glow a gentle reminder of the lessons learned over many days. Together, mortals, giants, and foam-born beings moved in quiet unity, a flowing dance of trust, cooperation, and respect. Cronus pressed a hand lightly to the earth beneath him, feeling the pulse of life and light flowing through rivers, stones, plants, and soil. "Even the smallest being contributes to harmony," he murmured. "Every careful action, every spark of curiosity and imagination strengthens the rhythm of life." Rhea's gaze swept across the valley, calm and tender. "Yes," she said softly. "Each day has been a lesson, and each moment a thread. Now all threads are woven together, creating a tapestry that is stronger, more luminous, and alive with gentle rhythm." Foam-born beings drifted along rivers and streams, their light pulsing softly, guiding every step and movement. Giants bent carefully, moving in harmony with the flowing world. Mortals mirrored each motion, learning to blend observation, imagination, and care into a gentle dance that flowed across the valleys. Even Oceanus's waters reflected the harmony, flowing with delicate ripples that mirrored the gentle movements of giants, mortals, and foam-born beings alike. Hyperion's sunlight danced across the valley, highlighting each luminous trail, each careful step, each small creation that had grown from days of cooperation and wonder. As evening approached, painting the sky in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the valley settled into quiet serenity. Giants rested atop cliffs and meadows, foam-born beings drifted along calm rivers, and mortals returned to their homes with hearts full of contentment and reflection. Every small act of observation, every careful creation, every spark of imagination and curiosity, every gentle lesson learned through cooperation, wonder, and reflection had strengthened the bonds of harmony across the land. Gaia whispered softly beneath the earth and rivers, sending warmth through roots, stones, and soil. Harmony is eternal where care, attention, and imagination flourish, she murmured. Observe, create, reflect, and move gently, and the threads of life will remain luminous and enduring. Cronus stood beside Rhea on the ridge, watching twilight settle over the valley. See, he said softly, the world has become a rhythm of quiet beauty, alive yet serene. Harmony now flows through every being, every river, every stone, and every blade of grass. It is eternal, carried in memory, movement, and care. Stars began to twinkle in the night sky, reflecting softly in rivers, lakes, and dew-covered meadows. Giants, foam-born beings, and mortals rested, carrying within them the gentle, enduring lessons of patience, observation, cooperation, creation, wonder, and reflection. Harmony endured, serene yet alive, and beneath the calm, the threads of trust, curiosity, creativity, imagination, and gentle care intertwined ever more firmly, preparing all life for the timeless days and discoveries yet to come. The valley exhaled in quiet contentment, and the world seemed to hum softly, a lullaby of peace and gentle rhythm, carrying all who dwelled within it toward a night of calm rest and the promise of dawn.